Most B2B companies obsess over acquisition. More leads, more demos, more pipeline. But the real leak in most businesses isn't acquisition, it's churn. The fastest growing B2B companies aren't always the companies acquiring the most customers. Many businesses believe that growth comes from more leads and more sales. But in reality, growth often comes from predicting the revenue that you currently have. Retention compounds just like acquisition. If you're constantly chasing new leads just to replace the ones that you've lost, you might not have a lead generation problem. You might just have a churn problem. Today, we're going to break down the real cause of churn and how B2B companies can build systems that actually keep customers. Over 90% of people watching the show aren't actually subscribed, and we release conversations like this every single week. If you're serious about building predictable revenue in your B2B business, then make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Hi guys, and welcome back for episode 55. Why does churn matter more than most leaders think? So churn in business pretty much refers to the rate at which customers stop subscribing or buying from a company over a specific period of time.
100%. And it's also, just so the listeners understand, if you've got if you're in B2B SaaS, for instance, and you sell subscriptions to your audience and your customers, essentially the churn is them voting with their feet and moving on to, say, a competitor, as an example. That's what churn is. It's essentially losing a customer. So you could have paid $500 to get that customer on board. You've spent a year or so with them, and generally what will happen is if they're not happy or something like that, then they'll essentially churn, and that is essentially them voting with their feet to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, there's a big problem with that. One of the biggest problems is the customer acquisition cost. So that in itself increases massively when churn is high, because you then need to continually keep getting more customers in to replace the customers that are churning, which is a massive problem for business. And obviously the best thing to do is actually to resolve the churn problem. They say that it takes far more money to bring on a new customer than what it does to actually keep the ones that you've got. So companies need to be investing in customer success, essentially, to keep their customers happy.
Yeah, well, when you've got that high churn, you end up with growth that's just unsustainable, because it's up and down and up and down and up and down, and you end up just in the same position pretty much with new clients like the whole year or the whole time for however long that period is.
The thing is, that's like, I mean, it sounds good getting customers on, right? But I mean,
but not when you're losing the same amount of customers.
That's correct.
You're not actually generating
that's right.
revenue.
You're not growing.
Yeah.
But that's really stressful, because you're having to onboard new customers that might not know the system. So you need to go through the whole onboarding process.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you look at the return on investment from marketing, that completely collapses when retention is poor, because you're continually investing in bringing in new customers, and that's a big problem for businesses.
Yeah.
So if you think, for instance, that if a business is losing, say, 20 to 30% of its customers annually, right, that means it must grow that 20 to 30% just to stay at the same level, to stay flat.
Yeah, exactly. But technically, they're not growing because they're not generating any additional revenue.
Well,
but
that's correct.
They have grown in the sense that they've had to spend money to acquire new customers, but then you've just lost the same amount of customers.
That's correct. So the thing is, if they invested in that customer success strategies, or that's certainly that function within the revenue team, that would help resolve that problem. So if they are bringing in 20 or 30% more customers annually, that's a 20 or 30% growth increase every single year.
The thing is too, when you're investing in your customer success, is these customers are going to talk highly about your brand, which is going to increase your brand awareness, and it's going to, you're going to be the number one person, say, in Mackay that they're going to go for. That's what you want, and that's what you need. You need those brand advocates.
That's right, 100%, totally.
And when you have churn, they're more than likely to say something negative about your business.
That's correct. Yep.
You want to think of this revenue problem, like the churn problem, as the revenue bucket problem. And this is, if you think of your revenue as a bucket, the marketing team are pouring in new leads into this bucket. Now, that's great and that's amazing if you're getting new leads. But if there's a hole at the bottom of your bucket, that water's just going to go straight in and straight out, straight in and straight out. And you're going to have to continually keep pouring new leads in. Now, most companies will respond by just pouring more and more leads in and trying to fix the problem, but they're not fixing the leak, which is at the bottom of the bucket. So if you fix the leak, your bucket stays the same and it will continue to increase, which will increase your revenue.
That's right. And the thing is, marketing tends to, or lends itself to be focusing more on customer acquisition, which is what it should be doing, right? It should be generating more customers, more prospects for the business. But you know, if that problem is not resolved from the churn perspective, it's going to be so stressful for the market function, because they are generating all this work, all these new customers, all these new prospects and leads and things, but the business isn't growing, and that is stressful as, you know. And while leadership may celebrate new deals and think that we're doing really great, we've brought in an extra 300 leads last month, what they're not looking at is the churn, which is quietly removing, you know, 30 or 40%, 20 or 30% of their current customers. So in effect, there's really nothing to celebrate there, because they're losing as fast as they're gaining.
Yeah, you just end up on this straight line, I guess, on a treadmill almost, where you're running but not even going anywhere.
That's right. And you don't scale pouring more water more water faster into the bucket either, because the faster you pour it, the faster it's going to come out, right? You scale by fixing the leak.
Yeah, you need to fix the problem, not just hide the problem. And that's what a lot of marketing agencies tend to do, is because they go, oh, you losing this amount of customers, let's just start generating you more customers. But then they end up in an endless cycle of losing and gaining and losing and gaining, rather than focusing on retaining your customers and growing at the same time. And that's the only way that you'll actually be able to grow your business and generate more revenue.
That's right.
And
The thing is, apart from the fact it costs more money to acquire new customers, apart from customer advocacy, which you've already touched on, you've also got the opportunity with current customers to upsell, cross-sell, and just provide a better service, a better product, and you know, and get them involved in that whole roadmap if you can, even to help them feel like they're actually part of it. That will definitely help towards the churn aspect. But this is again why, you know, you should be B2B companies should be regularly doing net promoter scores to find out what people think of the company. They should be doing surveys, you know, after every sale, you know, after a renewal, even before a renewal, you know, try and find out what the customer's thinking. And that's exactly it. You need to actually ask the customer, what, you know, are we performing? Are we providing outcomes that you're looking to achieve? What can we do to make it better and provide more impact, you know?
Yeah. Now, many companies believe that their churn isn't normal. And now churn is normal, but depending on your percentage, it might be a little bit over the industry standard. So when you compare it to the industry benchmarks, so for SaaS, you're looking at about 5 to 7% annually, which is a very small amount. You know, subscription-based businesses, that's 10 to 15%. Agencies and service providers, like, you know, marketing agencies, it's about 15 to 30%, which is quite on the higher side. But, you know, even those small little improvements will create that massive impact to your churn and retaining that revenue and generating more revenue.
Well, the thing is, reducing churn by even 5 and 10% can dramatically improve overall profitability.
Yeah, especially if you're bringing in new leads and converting them, then you're saving 5 to 10% plus growing 20% or whatever it may be.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, the thing is, most companies believe that customers churn because of the price. It could be the competition. It could be budget cuts. But those are usually just the surface explanations, and I hear it all the time. But the real issues are misaligned expectations. So I was actually speaking to a friend who works in software um, just the other day there, and she was telling me about the way that her prospects are coming on board is the customer is basically telling or so I said the prospect is telling her, this is what we need from the software. Does it do that? She's saying, well, it doesn't do that yet, but that's actually coming. That's on the roadmap and it's coming like in about 2 or 3 months. So what's happening is they're actually winning those deals. And what's happening is the delivery on that promise is not being delivered in that time. So what that's doing is that's actually making those customers vote with their feet because what they've been promised has not been delivered. And the problem with that is credibility for the company, because the company's promising these things that are coming, and people, customers are coming on board because of those promises. So it's a really bad situation to be in. So sales promises. Generally something because the company has has said, yeah, we'll do that within that period of time, but unfortunately the delivery just can't sustain it. All that does is leave the company frustrated. It'll leave sales frustrated. There's the sales functions. It obviously shows that there's slow implementation within the business. Do they want to stay there when it takes so long to implement something that's maybe simple? It breaks trust, it breaks credibility, and there's a whole host of things. So that in itself just completely will end up with customers churning faster than what they can replace them with.
Now, more than likely, they've lost that customer for life.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they've overpromised and underdelivered. And that's why you should never overpromise and underdeliver. You should always overdeliver and underpromise and always do more than what's expected.
That's right.
And it'll be hard to gain that client's trust back ever. And if they ever come back, I would be very surprised. That would probably be a 1 in 99 chance of happening.
That's right. A lot of customers will sometimes say, especially in the B2B space, customers will generally stay when they see value, when they see that value that's been delivered.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone looks for, right? Okay, what values is this going to bring to the business? And I suppose it's not always monetary, although you would like to think it would be, like what we deliver, for instance. But many, oh, sorry, when you go.
I think when you say monetary, it might not be directly reflecting the money. Like, with customer success, it's more about like you're focusing on obviously the customer success, but that in turn will affect your revenue because you're going to be keeping those things.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But many of the B2B companies like fail to quantify outcomes, they fail to communicate the wins, and they fail to show impact. So that then ends in a lack of perceived ROI with the investment that they're doing, or with the investment that they're with the product that they're investing in. So that in itself can produce additional churn as well.
Now, the first 30 to 90 days of bringing on a customer is probably the most crucial time to make life easy for them and make life easy for you as well. But poor onboarding will have clients leave. The first 30 to 90 days determine retention for the long run. So if your onboarding is weak, it's just going to add confusion, it's going to decrease your adoption, and customers will question their decision. And that's when they tend to get that buyer's remorse as well. And they'll maybe say, oh, actually, this isn't a good idea. And they'll jump ship and go to another, say, software company that does the same thing.
That's right. And the thing is, a lot of companies think that customers leave because of price. That's rarely the case. They generally leave because they stop seeing the value in what they're using, So that's something that a lot of companies need to really consider is, what does my product or service, what value does that bring to the customer? I mean, hey, we could talk about value propositions and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, if they can't get the onboarding part done properly, that's setting bad expectations, I suppose, for what's could likely come
Yeah.
later on down the line, you know.
Yeah. Now, there's a dangerous gap between sales and delivery. In many B2B businesses, marketing creates expectations, sales amplifies the expectations, and delivery struggles to meet them, which in turn creates churn. Now, the strategic alignment that's needed is marketing positions the business, sales shows the expectations, and the delivery is the outcomes. So if these are all misaligned, then your retention will just collapse.
Well, the thing is, retention begins before the contract is signed, you know, and it's this old adage as well, you know, retention and, you know, once the customer's sold, that's not it. You know, you don't just, you know, take the check and then run and that's it done. You know, it's a cycle, or I suppose a customer life cycle, I suppose, whereby the customers from the even actually before you even sign a contract and anything like that, you should be setting the expectations and everything up front with your content.
Yeah.
You know, with your marketing and, you know, positioning the business and, you know, sales setting those expectations when they're coming through the buyer's journey and then actually delivering on those with the outcomes that the customer receives, you know. And it's got to be a constant, it's a constant life cycle. So once they're on board, you need to continually nurture your customers, you know, help them understand how you can help them further, because they might have signed up for one thing, but in actual fact they have a multitude of different things that they could be that could help them grow their business or, you know, save time or whatever that might be, you know. So retention begins well before the contract is signed.
One of the biggest problems that most businesses do
We talk about
is
this all the time. Yeah.
all the time is they chase the money. So a customer will come to them, they're not aligned with their target market, they're not aligned with the positioning of the brand and who they're actually targeting. And they go, oh, yeah, look, it's an extra 5 grand, 10 grand, we'll just do it. And then they actually end up with probably the worst customers and the biggest headaches of the whole entire world. Not every customer should be your customer. And many of the churning problems actually start with poor customer selection.
100%.
So this is the wrong ICP, price sensitive buyers. That's a huge one. Unrealistic expectations or desperation sales. So if you're targeting the wrong ICP, just don't do it. That's all I have to say. Just don't do it. Price.
The thing is, we've been there, and I know that like any customer like that is guaranteed to churn the moment they sign. And you know, price sensitive buyers, you don't want to be bringing on customers that are price sensitive, because they'll know that's the type of customer that doesn't see value in anything that you generally provide, because all they're looking for is to try and get things as cheap as they possibly can. And that generally is because you brought them in and they're not your ICP. You know, maybe you've not done your due diligence as correctly. And I'll tell you something. I mean, I find it difficult now that we've kind of repositioned Adonis to be that revenue-led growth partner. I find it difficult to say no to customers when I know that I can help them. Especially, like, I'll give you an example. We had a client, a prospect, give us a call on Tuesday there, and he's just signed up to HubSpot, and he's looking for a website to be built on HubSpot, and he phoned us, and I thought that was fantastic. So I pitched him obviously our stuff, but it wasn't the right fit because it just didn't have the investment available to invest that amount at such an early stage, because they're just launching a new SaaS B2B SaaS product. But the thing is, I find it difficult to say no, because I know that, you know, we've been HubSpot partners. We know how to build websites on HubSpot. But what I would do is I would actually dilute our work for and delivering the services and everything to our clients. So that was a no-no. It's a bad fit. It was the wrong ICP. A good ICP for the future, but not quite right now. So you need to make sure that when you're qualifying your prospects, that you're qualifying them correctly in line with your own business and what you deliver as a company,
Yeah.
and make sure that they are completely aligned with that.
And it's exciting when you have somebody contact your business for your product or service or whatever you may offer. It's exciting, you're choosing me over X, Y, and Z or these people but yeah, if you have the wrong ICP, you'll just dilute your business and yeah, it's just not worth it. And the price sensitive buyers, you'll just end up
Headache.
chasing invoices. It's the biggest headache. You're always trying to prove yourself. It's not worth it. And
Yeah.
we've had some
I would
clients
be.
that have been
Yep.
price sensitive because we've had the wrong ICP. And it's hard. It's really hard because you're always trying to show the value that you're providing. But, if they're too bothered on getting the cheapest price, then they don't care about the value that you're providing them.
They probably don't understand much about positioning and where their own business sits in that, that positioning graph along with their own customers. And this is exactly why we created this revenue system, Metamorph IQ and Metamorph OS, so that we can coach your clients and teach them how this is how things need to be done in order to produce long-term exponential growth, which is what we do with all other clients. But most clients just don't do it because it takes time or they don't know. I mean, we had a client which we're just onboarding at the moment. We're created their vision, mission, and core values, and their positioning statement for the business, and they didn't understand what it was and how it fitted in with the rest of the development of the business that we're helping them grow. So it's those education points that we're good at teaching and taking people through this, because we know from our experience how the difference that makes and the growth and the impact that we make early on when we bring clients on.
High performing companies track customer health signals. So, some early warning indicators are reduced communication, slower responses, missed meetings, declining product usage, and reduced engagement. So, you want to identify churn months before any cancellation happens.
And you can do that with surveys and the net promoter scores and all that kind of stuff. And if you've got a SaaS application, you should be able to see which companies within that application, if it's a one-to-many type of application, you should be able to see who's engaged more, who's using it more. I know that HubSpot had, they essentially had gamification implemented on their system, so that if you were in there every day like we were, you were seen as being a power user,
Yeah.
because you're in there all the time. And those things actually help your business, and you can identify the problems that are starting to arise. Especially if you release a new function and that function's not getting used by anyone, that gives you the opportunity to say, hold on, what's happening? Why are people not using that? Because it should be helping them do this, etc., etc. But again, nothing else will do better than actually speaking to your customers. So speak to your customers and ask them. And the thing is, churn rarely happens suddenly either, and the signals appear generally early. So there's no reason for businesses not to use these signals to improve the customer success and really help the customers adopt whatever platform or system or product or service that they're providing.
If you can recognize that churn's going to happen, I feel like you're not paying enough attention to your customers.
That's right, because generally what you'll find is, and
You
this,
should be
this
able
is
to predict it.
but this is probably a culture issue, because I see sometimes in some B2B companies we've worked with, is the focus is all about customer acquisition. We need leads, we need leads, we need leads. Well, mate, you're getting loads of leads. It's just your leads are crap. What you need to do is you need to start targeting properly. You need to start building out thought leadership. You need to start writing, EAT blogs. which educate your customers, because by the time they go through the marketing side of things, they should be ready to sell. They should already be sold. It's just a case of where they're signed, So, and once they're signed, then obviously it's up to the customer success team. And if they don't have a customer success team, there might be an admin, or they might partner with a partner like us. It's up to them to make sure that they're still engaged.
I want to pause for a moment, because reducing churn isn't about working harder for unhappy customers. It's about building systems that make success inevitable.
Well, the thing is, onboarding is probably the most underrated retention lever there is, because that phase determines whether a customer becomes an advocate or churns within the first year. And that's because it's about setting expectations for the time ahead, which is why, like previously, you were saying, like the first 30 to 90 days is the most important. Yes, it probably is, because you're probably onboarding the client, you're getting all the details, how smooth is that happening, etc., etc.
You're setting expectations for the customer experience that they'll experience being with your company.
No, that's 100%. And you find that high-performing onboarding systems, and I'll highlight that word systems there, because that's like integral to everything in a business. So those include things like clear milestones. What happens in that first 90 days, what's expected of me in that first 90 days, or even 30 days or 60 days, or what happens in 30, 60, then 90 days, like what we do. What are the defined success metrics? How often do we set up scheduled check-ins? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? And really, from a business point of view, a provider point of view, you want to try and get some early wins as quick as you possibly can. So essentially, you want customers to feel confidence in the decision quickly.
Yep, couldn't have said it better. So we've already spoke about customer success as a revenue function, but most companies end up treating their customer success just like support tickets. Oh yeah, just message us and we'll fix this. And that's a mistake. Your customer success should be responsible for retention, expansion, upsell, long-term relationship. Your customers will become your friends quicker than your friends will become your customers.
I love that. I like that. That's good. And the thing is, what strong customer success teams actually do is they provide proactive communication. They have strategic reviews. They provide outcome measurements. So, they measure the outcomes and things that they're providing to make sure they're on track. And really, retention is a growth function, not a service function, So it's not just about customer service, it's about customer success and helping the customer become a success with whatever you're actually selling them, And that in itself will help reduce churn and provide a better customer experience.
Yeah. If you're, keeping, say, 90% of your customers and generating an extra 30% every year, then that's 20% growth year on year.
Yeah, 100%.
So the more customers that you keep, the better. You don't have to, convince them to buy your services because they're already with you.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they still need to communicate value consistently. They still need to keep nurturing their customers.
Yeah.
Customers forget the value that they can provide, and it's not always reinforced. And this goes back to, where customers bought one thing from me, but don't realise that you've got a whole host of other ways to provide value to them, which will help them grow their business. Generally, B2B companies must demonstrate impact. And examples of that could be monthly performance reporting. I mean, that should be a no-brainer for most companies. Quarterly strategy reviews, we generally do ours monthly, or we do quarterly sprints depending on what the engagement is, and dashboards showing ROI. For us, that's combined into the monthly performance reporting, but we've created our own dashboards for that, so that's always on dashboards up to the minute, knowing exactly what's happening with the campaigns and everything that we are doing to help drive growth.
Yeah.
But pardon me, but if the client can't see the value, they'll question the cost.
Mm.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So retention drives revenue efficiency because lower churn improves your lifetime value, your marketing ROI, your referral growth, and your revenue predictability. It's a lot easier for you to say, this time next year, we will be doing $3 million when you've lowered your churn, as opposed to if you still have a high churn and you don't actually know what's going on and you just keep pouring new leads in, especially if those leads are low quality and say you've gotten a generation company who sometimes aren't always the best because sometimes they'll just get you any lead to make it look like they're doing their job and they get paid monthly. It's better for you to have 12 highly qualified leads that actually convert than 30 and you have to sit and manually contact all 30 and they're low and they actually don't care at all about your business, or they're not in the location where you're targeting, or they've already got your service or they don't need it.
Or just no
Yeah,
converting.
you end up wasting time and it's just a big
And
waste of time and
I
money.
mean, that in itself is exactly why retention improves every other growth metric.
Yeah.
Because if you're retaining your customers, everything that's going in stays in, and then it just continually grows and grows and grows.
Yeah. So some churn math. So we have one company A. They are generating $2 million in revenue. They have a 25% churn rate, which means they must replace 500K every year. So 25% of 2 million is 500K. So they need to get additional clients to cover that 500K just to stay at the same place. Now you have company B who has $2 million revenue. They have 10% churn. They must replace 200K every year. Now, just that 15% difference creates 300K less acquisition pressure. So if they say if company B needs to replace 200K and they're creating 500K, then they're growing an extra 15%, which is great.
Yeah, 100%.
So lower churn makes every other growth strategy work so much better.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
So for companies looking to reduce churn, there are 6 areas that I recommend that they look at. The first one is make sure you understand who your ICP is. Sell to the right customers. That is probably the first most important thing. Now, before you even get there, make sure that you've positioned your business properly. Because that in turn will help you build out your ICP and buyer personas. Align expectations before signing. So make sure that the prospect of the customer knows exactly what they're signing, why they're signing it, what's going to happen right throughout the lifetime of the customer, not just before they're signed. Make sure that the onboarding is structured, that you have an understanding of, when we sign a new customer, a new client, this is what happens in that order, in that time space, and you need to make sure that you're communicating that to your customer as well. Deliver early measurable wins as much as you possibly can, because that will help build credibility and trust. Communicate ROI consistently. Ask them about their revenue. Measure everything you possibly can, not just the lower level metrics, but revenue metrics, things that you can quantify, if you like, and proactively manage customer success, because you want to reduce the churn to zero. That might be impossible almost, but that's where you want to be. You want to reduce churn to zero, and you want to continually be bringing in more customers consistently.
Yeah. And 3 immediate actions that companies can take right now is execute check-ins. So clients will end up staying longer when you're creating that real relationship. Check in on them. Say, how's everything going? Just wanted to double check over your ads. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I would recommend this. What else is going on in your business? Is it growing? Blah, 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 blah. Second one is a quarterly strategy review. So move from a vendor to a strategic partner, which is exactly what we did at Adonis. We moved away from being a marketing agency to being a growth partner. That's what we do. We partner with our clients for the long term. It's not just a case of random tactics or doing a bit of ads and doing a bit of this. It's a strategy. Yeah. Yeah. And the last one is engagement monitoring. So usage and engagement predict churn before it will even happen. And you can see that. And by executing your check-ins at the first one, you'll be able to monitor that even better.
100%. And I'll always say this is something that's kind of grown in me from the day one when I started the business over 22 years ago, 24 years ago, is always under promise and over deliver. Every single time, whatever you're doing, under promise, over deliver.
Yep. So growth isn't just about winning new customers. It's about building a business that customers never want to leave. They want to be a part of your company forever. And companies that will master that retention will go faster, they'll spend less on acquisition, and they'll build
100%.
stronger brands.
The thing is, acquisition creates the revenue, Chloe.
Yeah.
The retention builds the business.
Yep. Agreed. So if you found this conversation valuable, make sure you subscribe to the podcast down below. And if you're serious about building scalable revenue systems in your business, follow Adonis Media on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram for more insights. So next week on the Adonis Effect, we're unpacking a question most B2B leaders quietly struggle with. Why does so much marketing activity generate so little revenue? We'll break down why many B2B marketing agencies focus on leads instead of outcomes, why pipeline often looks healthier than it actually is, and how companies can start building marketing systems that actually drive revenue, like Metamorph IQ. If you've ever looked at your marketing and thought, we're doing a lot, but it's not actually translating into growth, then you don't want to miss this episode. Make sure you tune in next week.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.